Very good evening to you traders. It's Mark here from the day trading room. Time is coming up to 11:15 in the evening London time on Tuesday, the 5th of April 2011. 2 days to review, to journal, Monday and Tuesday. Monday was a very quiet day on the Dow. Tuesday a little bit more exciting, and today a little bit more exciting. Um, but yeah, still interesting nevertheless. So let's talk about today's trades first while it's fresh in my mind. Okay, before I start, I just want to pull through this Dow Cash chart. Monday, the 12,400 level, it doesn't get any clearer than this about a level to work from, even if you're not involved in it on Monday. There's a 12,400. This is a Dow Jones Cash chart, so it's not the YM, it's the actual cash, which is what it's the actual index we are trading when we're trading the YM, and you can see how important that 12,400 level was. Went above it by 6 points there, so you can call that a resistance there, and again and again and again. I could keep going on. It really was a solid level for the market. So you've got to have that drawn on your chart. You've really got to have that drawn on your chart. And even on Friday, actually, we pushed up. I remember taking that pull back after the first tag, thinking we'd get a breakthrough. But the rest of the day, it really didn't. It really didn't want to stay above the 12,400 for very long. So you've got 2 days of confirming that that's an important level. So work yourself around that. So today, add that in mind. Obviously, the gap fill, we're closed at 12,400 on the Monday, so that was the gap, and the high was a touch above it. The range was quite low on Monday, so we didn't have much of a range to work with. So yeah, that was the sort of framing we had of the trade. So what do we get? Well, not quite as clear cut really, because this was a lot of chop going around here. Then we had some data coming out. I think it was the ISM today. Yeah, ISM at 3 o'clock London time, 10 o'clock Eastern. So pretty much waiting for that to come out. That came out, spiked lower, and then we just started to drive higher. Now, before all this, I sort of thought, okay, if we can get up to 10,400 cash and sort of falter, I'll definitely look to take a short. And seeing as yesterday's high was up there close as well, not a bad place to take a short. And so that's exactly what I did. I let this push on without me. I didn't perceive it as very strong. I didn't think it was that strong. We weren't getting any mega high ticket readings. By the way, I've upgraded my trade station to the latest thing, and my little dots that normally show me the high the day on the ticks have gone, and I can't seem to get them back. So no, I know normally you'd see dots to indicate a new high in the ticks for the day, which I find that really, really useful. But for some reason that's gone, so I'm going to have to look into why that's not there. So that's why that's not there, but hopefully get that fixed. Anyway, back to the trade. Yeah, I had that planned. I decided I was going to take a short around there. I'd prefer to get 1,000 tick reading, but I'll take that. I'll take that little pop there. Just above the 11,400. The 11,400 cash was around here. Yesterday's high was here, so worth a short. And then I just looked at the market, and I just thought, I don't think I'm going to get anything out of this trade. I really don't think I'm going to get anything out of this trade. So it came down. It came down for me a few ticks. It got a few ticks there, not enough to scale out. I was really looking for a move back to sort of the midpoint level, if you like. Let's get the drawing tool out. To the midpoint level, if you like. Release some sort of pullback, perhaps to this sort of cluster here of acceptance, or even a tick pullback to zero. I'd have been happy with something like that. We didn't get it, and it took another little bit of momentum and spiked up. And actually, I pulled my stop a little bit tighter. I had like a 12-point stop initially. We came down. I think it was 6 in my favour. So dragged the stop down to just above that last little high, which made it about 5 ticks offside. Because I just wasn't happy with it. Anyway, I took a stop on that. And really, okay, if I'd have given it more room, then the trade would have worked, etc. But I just, I planned the trade. It didn't work out. I took the stop. It wasn't. It's not going to kill me. 5 ticks, whatever it was, isn't going to kill me. I'd rather do that and reassess and get a better entry. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. We pushed up to a new high. Then when I saw that we started to push up and we couldn't make a new high here, and actually I was looking over at the I think the S&P, and it was the S&P or might have been the Nasdaq. One of those two started to do a similar thing, but really just wasn't pushing up on that third push. So when I saw that, and I just saw the ticks go back to zero, but then the retest of the ticks, they're no height at all in those. Looking about plus 400 on that peak. So after, and by the way, after this stop out, I was looking for 1,000 ticks to get in short. If we'd have got 1,000 tick reading, I'd have been straight back in that trade, looking for a pullback to that 12,400 cash level. Didn't get it, so I've got to find something else, some other way of getting it. Anyway, so I had a little go at this, thinking, okay, that's quite a reasonable risk on there. Back in, looking a lot more favourable now. It's had opportunity to pull back and drive on. It hasn't. It's failed. It's been sitting around there now for a good 10 or 15 minutes. I don't think it's bear flag type pattern. It didn't look, the volume, there was not really much participation. It was more a case of buyers had shut off. We're now at 12,415, 12,420 on the Dow Cash. Buyers had shut off, and I think they were just waiting to see. And really, the subsequent drop back was more retail, a bit of retail selling, a bit of profit taking, volume very low, so it was just more of a drift down. Anyway, got the drift lower, took the 10-point scale, happy to do that, and also it was just at the prior day's high as well, so it made sense to do that. And then the final exit was here. In actual fact, this would have been an okay long. Okay, you would have had to sit with it for a while, but happy to take the alternative view and close the short. Why was that? Well, obviously there's the gap that coincided with the 12,400 cash level, so that's two things on your side. Third thing on your side is the first lower swing on your, this is this is a stochastic. Any cycle indicator, as I've said before, don't really pay that much attention to them, but when the market does move in cycles, so I'll pay attention to a strong market that then puts in a cycle lower. So no reason not to close the whole lot out there. So that was that, and made up for that little loss there and put a bit in the bank. So we double bottom there. I sort of sat back a bit now because look at the ticks here. You're not even getting anything less than minus 500, plus 500. It's really choppy sort of action, and it could go anywhere from here. Could go anywhere. So I'm just waiting to see what happens in the next setup. I haven't done this sort of trade for a while. But you'll recognise it if you've seen the videos. My lines aren't in here, but they are in here. There's my little window of opportunity, as I like to call it. There we go. Two vertical lines. One's at 4:45, which is noon New York time. It was at 5:15, and quite often we've had a spike or a change in trend direction at that time. And interestingly, happened today. Yesterday, okay, it wasn't quite as severe, but if you shorted it at the 5 p.m, you would actually have been not far off the high of the day and would have yielded a nice profit. Let's have a look on Friday. Not far off, still in the window of opportunity. Anything on Thursday? Again, not far off. There's a little change in direction there. If you'd have taken a position there. What have we got on the day before that? Nothing spectacular there. I wouldn't call that a winner. Nor then, and that's exactly what's been happening. The last few weeks or so, we haven't been having this sort of move, this sort of push into the noon time frame because the market hasn't really been that sort of type of market. So I've been taking that, but today took it, and and actually everything came into line quite nicely for me. 5 o'clock, little spike in volume, plus 1,000 ticks. What was the ticks? 1,094 ticks. Little spike in volume, just took out that high right at my 5 o'clock window. I'm going to take that all day, every day, proper size on it. There's no reason not to. So 5 o'clock, ticks, volume, and taking out the high. Excuse me. There was the short. It started then to push down, push up once more, tick divergence. Now, I know sometimes I say I prefer a high tick, sometimes I prefer divergence. If we've had the high tick, I'd like to see that first of all to indicate the exhaustion type move, and then the subsequent move up. Then that's fine to say, okay, there's divergence there, and there's no volume there. And because of that, and because the risk was quantified, there was the high. What was the high on that? 73. I think I got in at 71 actually. I was pretty good, not far off at all. With the second add, I decided to add another batch on that because the risk was so small, because really the movement of each candle, the average true range was so low. I could afford to have a stop at sort of 75, so really a 4-tick stop. So in actual fact, the trade risk, even though the size was much larger, the actual trade dollar risk, if you like, was the same as it would have been by using that with a standard 12 or 13 point stop. So I could do that, add to the position, okay, slightly improving my my average, not by much, but just because I really liked this position. I really liked it. We're up above the 12,400, no more buying interest, and as I've said, tick high volume, etc, etc. So took that, got my first scale at 10, and then we sat with it. In fact, no, it wasn't 10, was it? What am I talking about? The first scale here, I think I took it off at 8 manually, if I remember correctly. I remember I think I was sitting at 10, so it was 71, 61. Didn't get the fill, and then the second candle after, I dragged it up and just took some off the table with that. And probably did that only because A, it was putting back to that high there. B, I just missed my fill so really I was still at full risk. So if I don't take some, I want to take some off on that first impulse move. I want to eliminate some of the risk, otherwise I am fully loaded and fully exposed still. And so if I don't take some off on the impulse move, I'm uncomfortable with that sort of risk. So yeah, I moved up a couple of ticks and took the exit there. And then I just I sat with it. It wasn't rolling over. It just took so long. And then I just had enough of it. We'd sat here for a while. It came down nicely. I think my exit was 59. Yeah, it was 59. We're low cycle here as well. You can see on there. I just thought, okay, it could do another leg up now. The premise of the trade is over. The premise of the trade was to take that little noon push and then to look for an unwinding. And we got that, and unfortunately this time the unwinding wasn't quite as good as I'd like. But hey, nevertheless, it was a profitable trade. Final trade for me on the Dow was, I was looking at the cash and realizing, okay, we just started, we couldn't make any new highs. There's no volume there. There's no drive. There's no push. There's no reason for them to, they haven't got any more of a reason to push it higher with any volume. So I start to think, okay, people are going to question whether we can close above the 12,400 on the cash. So really, as soon as we put in this lower high, it wasn't much of a lower high, admittedly. Looks a little bit better on the 5 minute. You can see the sort of cluster of resistance up there. When that started to roll over, I thought it's worth a go. Again, the risk is pretty minimal. Even with a 12-tick stop, you're still pretty good. You didn't really need to risk that much. You could have just got away with that sort of level there, which is what I pulled it to pretty quickly. And that worked great. Got a 10 ticks really quickly, rolled over nicely. Volume, again, really difficult to read that. Took another scale out at the high, which was obviously the obvious target. And the final target for me was the 12,400 cash, which happened to be the gap and all out there. So I'd probably call that a trade of the day. That was best read. Didn't take any heat on that and got every scale I wanted, every target I wanted. Happened to go lower, but not really interested in that. I thought it might cycle up, especially as obviously we've got the volume weighted average price there. So just poke below that. So anywhere around there is a fair exit, really. Before you can't really see that, can you? Now I've just covered it all with my drawing tool. There's the volume weighted average price with the dotted. There's the gap. So anywhere around there is a fair exit in my eyes. So yeah, it was just on the top of that candle there. So yeah, all in all, can't really complain. Pretty good trading on the Dow after a pretty non-plus start with a stop and a little scalp back on that one. So where were we? Okay, oil today. Few bits and pieces on oil. Generally scalps, if I'm honest. That tends to be what I'm doing now. Looking for momentum and just jumping on for 10 ticks on oil. So that's really what I've been up to here. And really, as we took out this high, saw the momentum, jumped on it, and off for 10. Here, tried to force that high a bit. It did give me a bit, but came back and ended up taking a 3-tick loser. Here, I've got a 10-tick profit on that one. There was the support. You can just see there. Very, very horrible trade, really, but managed to squeeze something out of it. There was the support, broke, pulled back. Very flaky tape seller there. I had to go with a tight stop and yeah, got a 10-tick on that. And then took a stop out on this one, actually. 10-tick stop. So undid a good work of that. So probably not much profit on oil, really. After this was a bit silly. I just thought, coming to the close, the nice drive up here, missed this little push back here. Again, it's all a little bit choppy. I mean, look at the 5-minute, very range bound. Really, should I have got involved in it? Probably not. I probably should have taken just one little trade in the morning and said, "Oh, thanks for the 10 points. I'll leave you alone now." Not really the sort of market to be getting too aggressive with. I didn't get too aggressive, but probably took too many trades. But anyway, yeah, I took a stop on that one. So small profit on oil, nothing to shout about. As I say, shouldn't have really taken that trade. Don't think I did much on oil yesterday. Yes, here I did a little short from the opening. As we, I don't know when my exit. I would have been 10 ticks. I've been taking 10 ticks. I can't remember a time I haven't recently. Literally momentum down here. You can see this 3-candle momentum. Took out the low. Little bit of a pause. Seller lingering. Front run him and just look for a further pop. Get the pop. But interestingly, this is. I'm going on too long here, but this is quite interesting, and I want to point this out because I want to journal it for my own purposes, and also point this out to you guys. Every single low on that day was bought, and it popped up. Now, that's interesting because if you think literally every single one in the morning, count them with me if you like. There's your first, there's your second, there's your third, there's your fourth, there's your fifth, there's your sixth. So to me, that is indicating there is a passive buyer there. He's buying, he's waiting for a new low, and then he's buying, and then he's just scooping up maybe 5 or 6 levels of offer, and stepping back, and then there's a seller pushing it down, and he did that all morning until finally there was no more sellers or a seller, whatever, to push it to a new low, and we got that pop back up there. Now I didn't trade that, I didn't take that but I thought of that in my head, and I realised what was going on. But difficult to time that, and actually I didn't want to get too caught up in the oil, really, because as I say, I was looking for those momentum type trades. But that's interesting to see. New low, all new lows bought. So you can wait for that seller to drop and then we're off again. So that was yesterday's oil. Let's quickly go to the Dow. 20-minute long video. No one wants to hear me talking for 20 minutes. What did I do on here? Yeah, just a couple of trades for me on the Dow yesterday. I think I've missed out one on the end, or maybe I didn't. I think I probably left it early. Yeah, drive up here. Looking for the subsequent push up. Got the push up. Got a first scale. We approached that high and ended up taking a stop on the second batch. In fact, that's not right at all. Let me just sort out. I'm gonna pause the video now and just check my executions, because I don't think I've recorded these right. Bear with me. Okay, back. Yep, but I missed out an arrow there. I actually bought, amazingly, wait for this fantastic amount of profit. At 37 I bought some, and then I bought at 40, and oh, hang on to your hats, took that all out of 42. So no wonder the arrow wasn't put in there. I must have not been that excited by that. So that was that trade. Obviously good read in terms of it not working. Few tick profit, was that 5 and 2. Nothing to get excited about. And here, yeah, this trade, actually this was 2 entries. Took the short here, looking for that gap fill. Look at that gap fill, didn't quite get it. I ended up jumping the gun, and there was another exit here for this one. Shorted here, re-added again. I think it was 24 first, 28 again second. Literally looking for that low to break, and stop just above that high. Didn't break. Sorry, did break, should I say. No, didn't break the first time. So re-added, thinking, okay, look at these ticks. The fact that the ticks are pulled back to 0 as well was worth a go. And then it came down and scaled it out as we pushed into this low here. I think it was 18, if I remember rightly. I should remember, I've just looked at it. Yeah, it was 18. So nothing to shout about, unfortunately, yesterday. Monday yesterday. Nothing to shout about. Nothing exciting to report. A little bit better today, and let's hope that tomorrow yields some opportunities as well. Hope you guys have been doing well. Good trading as usual. Manage your risk, and I shall be back with another video, I suspect, later in the week. Okay, see you soon.